Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. I'm here to show you how to use Google Jamboard in math. And some of you may already be using this. I am by no means an expert, so if you have ideas to share, I welcome those. But I just wanted to show you what I know, and that's not a lot, about Jamboard. I've had a lot of questions about Jamboard, especially after the COABE conference. So I thought I would show you just some examples of how I would use this in a math class. And then if you have ideas, please share them with the rest of us. First of all, let me just tell you what Jamboard is. It is Google's interactive whiteboard. So if you use Jamboard in the classroom, a virtual classroom, you are just pulling up a virtual whiteboard. The thing about this one, though, that makes it so different is that students can interact with you on the whiteboard. So students can write, they can move things, they can add things, they can highlight things. All of the things that you can do, they can do. And you can all do that together. You can use it with Zoom. Students, you're limited to 20 on each Jamboard. And I do find that the more students that are using the feature, the slower it has been. But this would be a great tool for individual tutoring. I know when I was teaching, I had tutoring hours every week where I just opened up my Zoom room, and if students needed help, they knew that they could come in at that time, and I would be there. I was working at my desk, but I would be there to answer questions. So this would be a really good way to do that kind of tutoring. It is free. You log in with your Gmail account. I'm using it right now on my iPad, so I downloaded the iPad app from the App Store, but I prefer to use it on my desktop, on my PC. It's much easier to use. The reason I'm doing it here, though, I have the iPad Pencil, or the Apple Pencil, so it's really good with the Apple Pencil. For this example, I have created 24 tiles using the sticky notes feature, and I'll just show you what I mean. They're just little squares that I drew out using the sticky notes. And you cannot add a blank sticky note, so I use the X's and O's to fill the notes. I'm also going to use that in the skill set. The tables that you see, like this one, right here in the corner, was created in Microsoft Word. I just did a basic table, saved it as an image, and brought it in through the image tool in Jam. I duplicated slides so I didn't have to keep recreating the same tiles over and over. And I'm going to show you several examples that you could use with these same tiles in each set. And you could do that in Zoom, or you could do it with students participating with you interactively. You could also put them in breakout rooms, maybe a pair of students or a single student in breakout rooms. Let them come up with their ideas and then share them with the group. There are a lot of possibilities with this app. So let me show you just a few of the ideas I had, and I keep thinking of more, but I wanted this video to be short and to the point. So let's take a look at this first one. I have asked the students to complete the table to show different area combinations. So they at home, or wherever they happen to be, can interact with me by moving tiles. So you might have one student to do this, or you might designate 2 students, whatever you wanted to do, or you could just do it as I'm doing it right now. But the idea is to manipulate these tiles so that they create area models. And so this one has a length of 6. Sorry. It's very different on the iPad, so I'm having to adjust to that. A width of 4. And I won't go through this, but you get the idea. You can manipulate a length of 8 and a width of 3. a length of 12 and a width of 2. And the one that a lot of people won't think of is a length of 21 and a width of 1. So just by doing this manipulation, you could talk about area in square units. You could talk about factors, composite numbers, prime numbers. You could get into a lot of different subjects or topics with just this manipulation of tiles. Okay, another example that you might want to do. In this one, I have asked students to make 2 frequency tables to represent this data. And again, I would not do all of these examples at one time. The idea would be to teach a certain skill, but I just didn't want to have to copy and do tiles and all that over again. So there are 2 variables in this data. One of them is color. Sorry, that's the wrong place. Color. And then the other one would be the shape. And I'm still getting used to this iPad situation. There we go, the eraser. It's different. And I'm not proficient with Apple stuff at all. So I'm just going to call this the label variable. So on the label, we either have O's or we have X's. And on the variable of color, we have green, blue, yellow, orange, and pink. Just be mindful if you have students who are colorblind, this can be tough for them to do. You could even have your students to write in the names of the variables however you want to do it. And then to teach them to do a frequency table, I like to teach them about tally marks. You can talk about equality. You can find mean, median, mode, range, all those things with this type of data. So with the pink one, we have 8. I would talk to them about how that 5th mark is diagonal. Would have them to calculate the total number of items in the array. Lots of things, and you guys know what to do here. I'm just throwing out ideas, but you could do all sorts of things with that one. Okay, another example using this same information, and I'm going to lock my screen rotate. I don't want it to rotate here. So on this one, I've asked students to make a double bar graph to represent this data. I could not figure out how to draw a straight line, so I used these boxes, but that's actually going to help me a little bit, I think, because we would take this opportunity to talk about this being the x-axis. It's going to map the variable of color for me this time. And then on the y-axis, I'm going to plot the frequency. So I would label the axis, of course, with 1. I'm going to well, I have my tools in there. Let's see if I can get rid of that. I cannot. I'm having trouble writing right there. So I'm not going to even attempt that. You know how to do it. And I would have them to draw the graphs. This is where I would allow the students to jump in here. For the green, we need to go up to 2. So here's 1, here's 2. And that would be the O's. And then here are the X's. So on each variable of color, there are 2 different labels. So that's where the double bar graph would come into play. So students could graph, we would need to label that color, of course. So you might let each student do 1 color. You could compare all the greens. You could compare all the O's, all the X's, lots of different possibilities on this one using that same data set. And this background is available on Jamboard. You can choose your background, and I'll try to help you figure out mine on the, yes, I believe it's up here. It is. If you're in your slide editor, and let me just show you again how I got to that. You're up here at the top, and I can't zoom or anything. Up here at the very top, you see 4 out of 6. If you click on that, that is your slide editor. So if you come back to the slide that we're looking at, which is this one, number 4, click those 3 dots, and this is where you can change your background. You can do a blank background. You can do the dot grid. You can use the plain grid. You can use lined paper, or you can use that dark gray grid. And then you can also change the colors. I just used that particular grid for this slide because I wanted them to easily be able to graph. Okay, another example. This would be a good time to talk about ratios. I asked them to write the given ratios and to write each ratio 3 ways. So blue to yellow would be 4 to 4. I would also have them to write it with the colon and then 4 over 4. You could very easily jump into simplifying ratios right there if they're ready to do that. Orange to pink is 4 to 8. 4 to 8. 4 to 8. I won't go through all of those. You get the idea. I did throw in this one at the bottom. It says to suppose this data was tripled, write and solve a proportion to show how many pink O's would be in the larger data set. So in order to do that, they would have to know what a proportion is, how to set up a proportion, and I'm going to do that. I teach my folks to always set up a word ratio first. So we are looking at the pink O's to all items. So in our array, I have 6 of the O's and 24 total items. And we want to triple this data set. So triple means times 3. And I chose this specifically because I know you can just multiply by 3 and get that answer. But this is a good time to show them about proportions. So if you multiplied 24 times 3, and I would actually do that if it were me, but you don't have to. That would mean that there would be 72 of those items in my larger set. And then you can show them how to solve a proportion because they know what the answer should be. They know it should be 18. So 72 times 6 and then 432 divided by 24. You could work in some calculator skills, and I hope and pray that that's 18. If it's not, I'm in trouble. Let me see, because but this is the type of thing, this is where I could see that the interactive part of this app would come into play, because you can have all of them do it on their calculators and check their work. You're going to know if there's something wrong. So yes, that turned out to be 18. That's a good sign. But I would ask them to predict what the answer is going to be. and then to prove it with math. This is a proof, and that sometimes for my students was always a good thing. If they knew what answer they were looking for, then they were able to see how the proof worked a little better. Okay, one more, and that is with probability. The cards are lying on a table. A mosquito lands on a card. What is the probability that the mosquito will land on an orange X? Write the probability as a fraction, a percent, and a decimal. So there are 2 orange X's. So we want the probability of, and I do teach them probability format. You don't have to, but this is just the probability of an orange X is going to be 2 out of 24. So you could say, okay, there's the fraction. That fraction can be simplified as 2 over 24. Let's simplify by 2, 1/12. And then we can use that to get the decimal. Now you could do it longhand if you wanted to teach that skill. You could also do it by calculator. You know what I'm going to do. 1 divided by 12, it's a good time to talk about which number goes in first into the calculator. But you end up with, you could have one student to do it longhand and one to do it on the calculator. Again, the possibilities are endless. It is about 0.083. That 3 is repeating, so it's approximately. So you could do a percent. We could call that about 8.3%. You get into rounding. You could just go into all sorts of directions with this. So if the mosquito chose a card at random, 8.3% says it would be the orange X or an orange X. You could get into talking about odds. Is this a good thing to bet on? Would you bet $1,000 that this would happen? Would you bet $1 that this would happen? So you can help them develop an understanding of what the odds are. It might even be worthwhile to pull out those 2 just to let them see how the chances are not very good that this is going to happen, so that probability is going to be pretty slim. So letting them link the visual 2 cards to the probability being low is a good thing, in my opinion. I would be very interested to know what you think about this tool. If you have ideas for using this tool, I would be interested to know about that. Please reply to everybody so everybody can see your ideas. What I'm trying to do with these videos is to give you some ideas, but also to spark some discussion and to help out our new folks who may be learning how to use the iPad for instruction and just trying to get ideas about this adult education world. So please give me your feedback, good or bad. You will not hurt my feelings. I don't want to be sending out stuff that you don't want to see. So if you have thoughts, I welcome those thoughts always. If you have questions, I welcome those too. Have a great day, and I hope to see you guys really soon. Bye-bye.